All right, hello. This is Tommy Valentine. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can already tell from the site, the audience, this is going to be a show for the ages. If you're encountering any audio difficulties, just stay with us. I put a comment below that Facebook Live across platforms has been having some issues. If the sound is lagging, give it a few minutes, and it will it should pick up. So just stick with us, okay? It's a little bit more control. I have Mark Zuckerberg's phone number on speed dial, or I'd be sure to ring. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in today. This is your first time watching this program. Allow me to introduce you to what you've chosen to do today. So this program is called This Moment in History, COVID-19 in Athens, Georgia. Our goal is to document and explore this moment in Athens history. That means talking to community leaders, business owners, and so on. They're helping to find this moment in Athens history, not only in 2020, but specifically right now with COVID-19. We're so thrilled having Daniel Epting with us. Our organization, long history, Epting have been critical overall in our organization's existence. Daniel was a long-time trustee organization. Epting is a sponsor of our organization. I know personally, I don't know if I work here with Daniel and his relationship with the community. So we're really excited to talk about if this is your first time tuning in, just so you know this is a program that you can watch. It's again, our hope when this is all over is that we're going to donate all 55 episodes as a digital archive to our local libraries, research institutions. You can be part of that historic record that we're contributing. I'm making a comment that we can share on screen. I'm already seeing lots of comments below. Please keep them. We'll share them as appropriate so that we can keep the dialogue moving. One last note. Each week of this broadcast is possible by different weekly sponsors. This week has been sponsored by the Dan T. and Sarah Weish Fund at the Athens Area Community Foundation. So we want to make sure we thank the Conan Fund, but also the Athens Area Community Foundation, Sarah McKinney, and everyone there for everything you're doing. And yes, I see some comments, some additional comments. I'll do with the sound. Please refer to some of the additional comments above. And it explains that we may have some stuff when we get started. Facebook tends to smooth things out after a couple of minutes. So just stick with us. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get Daniel onto the call. So I do see enough comments. I do feel I need to just make a note here. So everyone commenting. Facebook Live is having a few issues. Please stick with us. Here, one second here. Okay, great. So, all right, that's a regular Daniel on the call. And so, just one second here. I think for those of you that are tuning in, technical difficulties, this is what happens. We have half the world suddenly on the internet when they weren't ready for us. So, I'm sure you all had issues in your Zoom feeds and your Google Meets, but stick with us. The audio tends to smooth itself out. So just bear with us. So I'm going to go on to the program with us. So one moment. All right, great. So, and then Daniel, like you're muted right now, I'm going to go ahead and turn your audio back on. And then we should be able to fully welcome you in. So 1 second here. All right, Daniel, hello.
There, you're back. Are we?
Hey, there we
are. There?
Okay, great. So, we're there.
Sorry.
There.
And Happy New Year.
There. There we go. So, all right, great. So I'm seeing lots of comments here. Clearly, we have a lot of Daniel Epting fans. That's not surprising, given his work in the community. Daniel, even though we have some Daniel loyalists here, we want to make sure that we're introducing you, because we do have some people that tune in every day. Not everyone's had the pleasure of meeting you. Also, there may be someone watching this 50, 60 years from now. And we want them to know you a little bit better. So would you take a few moments just to introduce yourself, to talk about your work in the community, to talk about Epting events, and just to talk about your relationship with Athens, Georgia?
Cool. So I'm Daniel Epting. I'm at least a fourth generation Athenian. I've got two daughters that are now fifth generation born and raised Athenians thus far. And I am part of the family business, Epting Events. Also started a venue a few years ago called Athens Cotton Press. And our newest ventures, as of March 23rd, my brother and the team, Taryn and Mo, that had all built it behind the scenes, launched a new program called A Good Story Foods, which is a line that is fully cooked, fully frozen meals that you can pick up at our location. We've got a couple other distribution places, but we're able to safely feed people in the community and help people stay employed here at Epting Events. What else do we do? We have had an amazing last 10 weeks since all this happened. We literally lost 100% of our business in 39 hours. And in 72 hours, we unrolled a Good Story Foods line with that product line and a family pack meal and family and meals that are individual pints for a ton of nonprofit organizations here in town. We'll talk maybe a little bit when we get to the COVID part of this conversation on how some of that went down, but it has been an absolute blessing to be in Athens, Georgia during COVID. There is no other place that I'd rather be. People like you, Tommy, putting this together. Thanks to the Coonans for sponsoring this week. That's why I was singing, getting ready for their Christmas party. But seeing people rally in Athens, Clark County is just amazing. And I love the fact I got some friends on here from Virginia that dialed in. So excited to see how the reaches of Athens, Georgia are far and wide, and we really are leading in so many ways in this area as a city and as a community. And I think here, even within our family business, of how to respond to things as a team. So more things about Athens. I grew up, as you know, in historic preservation. Our house was always under construction. My mom, Bobby Epting, was executive director, your position, when I was a kid. And Ashley and I would slide down the pole at the fire hall. We helped to preserve the Morton Theater. I know that a lot of these conversations, Milton Leathers gets referenced on here. And I know that yesterday y'all were talking about how you wish that you could get him on and everything. So there he is. So I brought our guest speaker here, Milton Leathers. Hi, everybody. I know that y'all wanted Tammy to join as well. So there's a couple other great Athenians there. There we go. Good team there. But those influences brought us to this conversation. Milton, my mom took me down to the Ray Nicholson house one time when they were about to demo it, and the team was fighting to preserve it. And I was painting a perfect square so that we could show the university how cool it could be. And Milton came over and told me to feather it in, so it would give texture. I learned at that point I didn't really want to be a painter, but I learned a lot that day of how to sell the idea of preservation and the value of it. And I think Tommy, for y'all, what you're doing with this program is so phenomenal, because it really represents more of the whole mission of Historic Athens, which is not just the structures, right? That's part of the community, but it's really the neighborhoods that you guys are addressing, and the story that is so important to Athens for the legacy. And a lot of us love the Smith family, and Fred's point, I think you probably said it again yesterday or maybe a couple of days ago with DSI, but of tell the whole story. And so I think that's one of the great things that your organization is continuing to do and keeping folks engaged. So there's a little bit. I don't know where you want to go from here. What else? You want more story? I can talk for an hour.
We can go anywhere. Yeah, I know. We're gonna have to extend today to a special 6-hour broadcast. Daniel, I'm so glad you said that about the general mission of Historic Athens, because so one of the reasons today's the first program to start at 1:15 instead of 1 o'clock, That was because I had the opportunity to speak to our local Rotary Club, which I'm proud to be a member of, about historic Athens. When we talked about our mission, one of the things we talked about is, in the mission statement for this organization, our goal is to develop community-wide understanding and the value of three things: buildings, neighborhoods, and heritage. And stories like these, people like you, even recipes, some of the Epting recipes. I mean, those things are all part of our collective heritage, and it's our job to preserve those too. I guess the next area I want to go down is Athens is a community that people fall in love with. One of the more common things you hear about, you even hear it from our mayor, is people move here and they move here thinking they're going to be here just for a few years, and yeah, there we go. There's Cami. Uh, uh, People think they're moving here for just a few years. They fall in love. They stick around. I had the pleasure of moving here before I could even read, and now here I am trying to preserve this community. But people like you, Daniel, you have a very special relationship because, like you said, you've got 4 generations running here, and that's 4 generations of stories and knowledge and loyalty. How do you think your position as a fourth generation Athenian kind of shapes your relationship with Athens?
Um, it's deep. I'm tied in. I'm tethered, in an amazing way. It is so important to me to see how we as a community look back in a few months and in a few years, and as you said on this, 50 and 100 years from now, on how we handled this. And what makes it so special to me is every facet of the community working together. It is. It's been eye-opening during this time. I've gotten engaged with organizations that I would not typically have been engaged with. Sorry, they're coming across the speaker. And that will continue to be part of the nature of what Athens is. It's a culture. I used to love growing up when mom and dad would take Ashley and I places. We'd always travel with shirts that said Athens, Georgia on it. And we were literally in a train station in Italy, and somebody saw my shirt that had Athens. I don't know if it was the one that with all the bands on it, or if it was like Mexico or Guthrie, something like that. Nowhere bar, somewhere you should get in with a fake ID. And so, and we would always run into people, but literally in Italy, somebody saw our shirt and came up and said something to us there. And it happens all over. I loved when I lived in Colorado and people would say, "Oh, you're from Athens." Yeah, we're special. There was another shirt or a bumper sticker that came out years ago that said something about Athens. We're not snobs. We're just better than you. And I love that. I mean, it's so jovial because we're also so gracious and welcoming and warming to people, which is why we see an influx of cool people that come here to stay for a minute and live here for generations. As you talked about recipes, and Milton had requested an update or showing the picture of Cami again. Cami, I put salt and pepper on my sandwiches because the sandwiches that you used to send Sarah Farr with to school, and then we'd come over to your house afterwards, you would put salt and pepper on sandwiches with the smallest amount of lettuce. And I was just like, man, that really just changes a ham and cheese sandwich. And so literally my daughter, when I make sandwiches, which I just did at lunch again today, I said, Graham, go get me a salt and pepper. So she went and got it for me. But there's a slight little touches that Cami taught us growing up. They're just cool little things.
One other part, Daniel, about your heritage I want to tap into here.
You see Milton correcting my English?
Oh, man, Milton is killing it. I want to say, this video is going to go to the Heritage Collection and the Hargreaves Collections Library. Now I'm feeling like I'm going to print out today's comment section and send it with us, because the comment section today has been really phenomenal. Especially Milton is on fire here. So I have another question though, because you talked about your traditions in Athens. There's two I want to tap into for a second. One is there's a tradition in your family of philanthropy. There's lots of people in Athens that run businesses, and we're very thankful for them. But it's very clear philanthropy is a big part of the Epting culture. And then in a second, I saw Aaron Podvin jumped in to say, "Nice job, neighbor. We love you." You also your tradition of historic preservation continues with where you live. I mean, you are a member of a historic neighborhood, and that's something that you're practicing yourself. And so I want to talk about your commitment to and love for historic preservation. So let's start with philanthropy, though. Daniel, can you talk a little bit about why philanthropy is so tied into the DNA of the Eptings?
Why? It's because we are fortunate enough to be able to do it, and it'd be like wasting any other opportunity in life. You shouldn't do it. So we've got the opportunity to contribute and be philanthropic. And then in this year is it really, we've always told people that you get more out of it than you ever put into it. So a couple of years ago, we started a family foundation to help to give to organizations. And this is on the gray area. I probably shouldn't say this, but the reality is I'm going to, and now it's gonna be out there for everybody. I've debated this, but I was told by some people, you should just tell the story, whatever. So one of the things that we're able to do is to fund jobs and food for organizations right now that need it. There's not a lot of surplus money out there. So our foundation has created jobs for our staff to create meals for a myriad of organizations. So Council on Aging, we do a bunch of meals for them throughout the course of the week. And the program, they liked it so much that Eve Anthony wrote a grant and got it to keep the program going, which to me, I told her, I said, it feels good. It's great to have that revenue and to know that we're able to help the community. But more importantly, what it means is what we did was fair and was valued and was appreciated. So same thing with ESP. I mean, we did 8 weeks of meals with ESP, some of which we funded, but they also got other funding for it. So it comes out, it's $5 a serving, and we do individual pints or 4-pack family meals, frozen, safe, and nutritious. Now, you can look at me, I'm not gonna lie to you and say it's healthy, but I'm gonna tell you it's nutritious, it's bountiful. And so that's been amazing. We also were able to work with Acceptance Recovery Group. And we've got, if there's a food need out there, y'all, please reach out to me. Reach out to us. We'd love to work with you and find a way to help. The Oglethorpe, I've got an alarm that goes off every 5 minutes here, so I can continue to plug things. And since Milton's on here, we'll start with that company. So this is one of the ways that you can support local businesses is just by the simple things like T-shirts, that also tell the story of where Athens has been, but also in 50 and 100 years, they'll see some companies that are here. There's one shirt, one prop. So my alarm will go off here in a few more minutes. As we talked about painting, I'll throw a shameless plug for my buddies, Matt McNeely and McNeely's Pressure Washing and Painting. So maybe they'll still be around in 50 or 100 years. But the philanthropy, like even these are moments that we can give back to our friends, because these are other businesses that create jobs, and jobs create stability, and stability creates funds and time that people can give back to the community. So we all have the opportunity to do things. Working with Books for Keeps, I got a fleet of trucks sitting on a loading dock that we're not doing parties. Like we're looking forward to events so that we can keep the doors open for Athens. But I got trucks sitting out there, and so Leslie Hale at Books for Keeps said, I said, what do you need? She goes, can you help with deliveries? So we've helped deliver books to schools. We got 3 more deliveries, I think, Friday. So using resources and giving back, so all y'all that are listening, you don't have to give money. You can give. I went out to ESP the other week and bush hogged for about 5 hours and cut trees for about 2 more. Took my chainsaw out there and had a great time with Gina out there. I'm going to bush hog for a few hours by myself. Didn't break their tractor. That felt good. But you can give time, you can give energy, you can give enthusiasm, and even the clicks and the links and the sharing and engaging like this with you, Tommy. These are ways that people can do things when there's not funds. And so it's really just thinking outside the box and creatively, that philanthropy work tenfold comes back to us, not just me, but my entire family and our team here at Epting Events. Everybody loves to give and everybody loves to engage.
Daniel, real quick.
Yeah.
So before listen, first of all, for any of you out there wondering, yes, interviewing Daniel Epting is like trying to lasso a tornado. It really is. But the thing is, everything you're saying is important. So my job is just to get out of the way. With that said, I do want to just bring something up here because I saw in the comment section Deborah Gonzalez, who tunes in pretty much every day, and Deborah, we appreciate you sharing the program so often. Daniel, Deborah shared, thank you for what you've done for the Latino and immigrant community here, as well as your work in Puerto Rico, had included. Um, Daniel, I know that you've spoken before about the work in Puerto Rico that your family does. Can you talk a little bit about those efforts here?
Yeah, so we got a phone call one day and they said, Ashley and I were down here at the office and they said, hey, there's some partners of ours that we had done some other work with for 20 years. I mean, dad worked with their dad 20 years ago. And when those brothers got started. And so we had been talking about doing disaster work. And then we were talking about a long-term development plan on this new business model. And then about 8 months into conversations, just kind of lightly, we got a call that said, hey, we need you to be in Perry, Georgia tomorrow to do TVs and snacks for 1,500. Can you do that? And Ashley and I said, yeah, no problem. Great. And so we hung up the phone, we scratched our head and said, let's call Mo. So we called Mo and said, hey man, you know those satellite things that you take out to the tailgate parties? You think we could take one down to Perry, Georgia tomorrow and set it up? So 42 hours later, straight 42-hour day, we had TVs and snacks up for 1,500 linemen in Perry, Georgia. And it was me and Dad, Ashley and Mo. And through an Athens connection, through Ashley Carter, Dr. Carter's daughter, who grew up with Ashley, she was a teacher down there. And he called her. She got us a couple 4-H kids that came and worked their tail off. And during that conversation, they said, can you go to Savannah? Well, we actually already told them you could go to Savannah and serve 1,500 in 8 hours. And so we said, okay. So we left Mo with those high school kids, and me and Dad and Ashley booked it to Savannah. And it just kind of steamrolled into saying yes to opportunities and figuring out how. So things had subsided a little bit. And when Ashley and I were down here at the office again and got a call that said, can y'all do 42 days, 300 people a day, 3 meals in Aguadilla? And Ashley and I said, yeah. And so we hung up the phone and started scratching our heads again. Called Dad, called Mo. We were literally, we were out of the hill talking later on, scratching our heads and like, all right, how do we do this for real? And Ashley remembered that through Semester at Sea, he had a friend that lived in Puerto Rico that was from there. So we sat on the front porch of the Blue House out there at the hill and started talking. And he just called him and said, hey, any chance you guys got any connections to food, water, resources? And they said, yeah. And so Ashley and Mo and Lee went on a scouting trip the next morning. I think we booked flights that night, and they did a scouting trip without us having a job. It was just the idea that we might, and went down there. Well, we ended up working with Army Corps, got a bunch of stuff down there, opened the camp, did the Southern hospitality service that we're known for, and the high quality food. That they ended up firing 2 other companies across the island. They added another camp for us and had us replace those other 2 companies. And so at one point we had 150 locals put back to work in Puerto Rico when there wasn't. And we served over 1,200 people a day in 4 different cities at a time so that they could get the power back on. So Ashley is actually a Puerto Rican resident. He's got to get his documents done so that he can actually vote down there. I think he's getting back down there next week. Yeah, you might respond in there, Ashley, in the chat bar. But he is a Puerto Rican resident and continues. So we've got 2 ice machines that are still down there that we bought out of Moultrie, Georgia. We were scratching our head. They said, can you get ice down here? So we'll work on it. And I drove up the street and I saw the twice the ice machine and got the phone number off of it. And I called them and I said, hey, I need the biggest pull behind ice machine that you can get. And they said, well, it'll be about 6 months. I said, no, I need it next Friday. And so they said, no. And I go, I'm going to call you back in about 15 minutes. And I just need you to tell me yes and how we make it happen. And 15 minutes later, I called them back and they said, we'll sell you the display model out of the front of the building. And so Mo and I drove down there and picked it up. And about 4 o'clock, we picked it up at 6 a.m. We're at their gate. And at 4 o'clock, we realized we were not going to be able to get that. Oh, there's my reminder. Next hat.
5-minute plug. 5-minute plug.
On a hardware shop local. That even has their established, I think, on there, 1949. Yeah. So support
Very
local
good.
business.
Hey,
And
Daniel, I want to jump in real quick here because
yeah,
before we get too far, there some of the comments that we've seen in the comment section. I want to make sure we just kind of flash on screen here, make part of the record. It's hard to choose which one from Milton Leathers because all of Milton's have been good. We've seen some folks when we talked about different recipes that are part of the tradition. We saw some notes here. Really great to see Athens artist and institution Stan Mullins pop up. We really love Stan
yeah.
and the work he does. I'm going to choose Milton briefly correcting your grammar because that's such a Milton thing to do. Ashley and me, not I. And then Alex Sam's responding, "Don't be my grandmother, Milton." Uh, we already referenced Aaron Podvin, and that's going to be the next thing we talk about. But Aaron, thanking you for being a good neighbor. And then we saw Lindsey Brandon say something that I definitely want to bring up on screen here, which is Lindsey Brandon works with our Athens Area Chamber of Commerce, the sponsors for last week's project programs. She just said she'll mention for anyone who doesn't know, Epting Events won the Athens Area Chamber of Commerce's 2019 Small Business of the Year, so well deserved. I saw that Bobby Epting, who was popping earlier, the aforementioned mom of Daniel Epting, Bobby Epting, shared Cami also sent you a goodie bag to go with us when we went to Hawaii, taking hand-picked Georgia peaches. She's a love. I love Milton's comment here. I want to make this part of the record. Lee Epting is not a caterer. He's not an events planner. He's a person who enables other people to reach dreams that they never thought would realize. And that's his gift to us. I saw, and we're just going through these. We're almost through, folks, but we want to make sure we document these too, folks participating. So I see Becky here said, awesome and thank you. I know we've talked a lot about Ashley Epting, Puerto Rican resident. Here he is saying, and a huge thanks to REM and Widespread Panic for showing us and the other kids that grew up here how to give back to the community. That's certainly true.
Yeah.
Tim Johnson, an important local community leader, said that you drove Darius. We all who've lived in Athens remember Darius Goes West. You drove Darius and crew across the country and back. Travis Birch, wonderful local business owner and philanthropist himself, said he's proud to have Daniel as a neighbor. Clearly no shortage of energy or ideas. I'm particularly proud of his family's garden. Ann Crowther shared the Eptings are an Athens institution. Epting Events, I want to urge you to go into the comment section and follow this link. Epting Events just shared the following here, which is to donate meals to those in need through our carryout line, A Good Story Foods. And then she shared the link. You can get to that. Daniel, I know you mentioned Eve Anthony. We actually are very fortunate. So tomorrow we were scheduled to have Katie Williams from the CVB. We're going to have to postpone that interview, although we're going to bring her back on soon. Katie's the new head of the CVB. We're really excited to work with her. But Eve Anthony is going to actually be on the program tomorrow. So that'll be a further chance, Daniel, to talk about some of the work there.
Yeah.
Daniel's partner in crime frequently, Jeremy Field, commented in to talk about football, of course, but he included a line we want to make sure we document, which is Epting's work when the rest of us aren't. And there's some additional comments that you guys will want to catch up on. The last one I'm going to share here, though, is just Dan Delamater saying there's a sermon in Daniel's philosophy, say yes and figure it out. So, Daniel, let's talk about that, the say yes and figure it out. So talk to us about that philosophy and how you live that out.
I just practice. I just practice every time I get the opportunity. It's fun problem solving. I don't know if any of y'all know this or not, but at Whitehead Road Elementary, 1989, I was in the future problem solving team. And I think Dr. Mahaffey just got me hooked on it. I mean, you could go through life just doing something, or you could seek out opportunities, which some refer to as problems, and try to help solve them. But I mean, it really is just, it's logic games. It's fun to say yes to something and figure it out because, hey, there's the alarm.
5-minute plug.
Here's these cool Oglethorpe Senior Centers shirts. Those are a lot of fun. So we got meals with them, but I love the fact it's Keep on Trucking, and their participants actually designed that shirt. So Oglethorpe, hey D, and team down there. The figured out mentality is just what you got to do. It's because we grew up in a family business and we grew up in preservation. You know, when Ashley and I were kids, we lived in the Gordon house, which is beautiful now. Kevin and Alan's place right there next to Georgia Power, and it's a beautiful house now. But when we were there and it would rain, the plaster would fall off the ceiling. So Mom, told Dad that she wasn't going to have that. That's where I was born. And so then we moved in this little barn, this little rock house out there at the hill. And then we moved into Dad's current house that was always under construction. So Ashley and I, people see it now and they say, oh, it's great. And say, well, is this where you grew up? So geographically, yes, but we literally slept in a trundle bed, in one bedroom, and we didn't have heat. So twice Mom had two babies under 5 years old, and Dad was running the catering business out of Ramada. And she said, Lee, I can't have this, so she took the two kids and we moved into the Ramada, which is like a cheap version of Madeline's childhood. But we lived there, and we figured out life on the hill down a dirt road. We had snakes and mice and all sorts of vermin in our house all the time. No heat. We always had people living with us at all the different houses so that Mom and Dad could live where they wanted to and work on projects. So it was a very odd childhood.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, I got to tell you,
these amazing influences on the side. I mean, there's nobody in this category that says no. Look at the people that are in this chat bar, and they're problem solvers and they're engaging people. So that's just how I was raised. There's not really an option not to say yes.
Daniel, I got to share with you just a funny overlap. Today I was on the phone with Bruce Lonnie. For those of you that don't know, Bruce Lonnie heads up at our planning department, local historic preservation committee, the HPC. And we were talking about why we are as people the way we are. And I specifically brought up the future problem solving program here in Clark County Schools. So I was also starting that around the same time you were, only over at Gaines. So that's pretty funny.
Every time I call Bruce, I just go, hey, dude, I got another crazy idea for you. So I just called him with that message last week. I mean, we are throwing so much mud on the wall to figure out how to work through this COVID period and to come out stronger and better and keep people employed. But y'all, we need your purchases. We need you to buy meals for nonprofits. We need you to buy meals for your family. So while we're engaged, we're a long way from breaking even or making money. So but I'm not asking for donations. I'm asking the opportunity to sell you product. But in that sense, we're going to figure it out. So with Bruce, I've been calling him with all sorts of ideas, because people don't just think of us as a food company, because we're logistics, right? We are trucking, we are distribution, we are repackagers. Everything that comes in here is a raw product and leaves as a finished product. And we're an accordion, right? Everything comes in our warehouse, gets in a truck, expands in somebody's yard, gets back in a truck, comes back to the warehouse. And so we can do that with any products. And so with the venue spaces and this commercial kitchen and our partnerships around the country through the Leading Caterers of America program, we're not just your food company. When, like I said, with the book deliveries, we can do all sorts of things. So throw us weird ideas too.
Yep. So Daniel, I see some comments in the section below that I want to start tying in. Of course, the pump station has popped up, so we got to talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Very, very, very quickly though, we have about a third of the program left. I want to make sure we really dip into. I know we've alluded to it, but really jump into the heart of COVID-19 and its effect on Epting events. But very briefly, before we do that, this is the point in the program where we thank our annual sponsors, which includes you. So everybody, just stick around for 1 second so we can say our thanks to people like Daniel for the work that they do. So first of all, again, I want to emphasize, Daniel, thanks for correcting my pronunciation there. The Coonan Fund. We want to thank the Coonan Fund and at the Athens Area Community Foundation for their support this week and allowing us to do this program. The logos and names you see on the screen here, these are our annual events. At times like these, our 501c3 nonprofit, we love celebrating that we're 52 years old, but those bills still come on time every single month. I saw the timer go off, Daniel. This is my 5-minute plug.
There you go.
But we want to say you may see businesses up there that you can support. I know Travis Birch was here earlier. We love Heirloom. We love Epting. You can see their names there under our restoration sponsors. If you see a business name on there, we want you to support them. Please support them. And then also, if you'd like to become a sponsor or a donor member, which starts at only $5 a month, please consider visiting historicathens.com to do so. Y'all can't see what I can see, but Daniel's primed and ready to jump back in as soon as we head up. I'm going to flash shirts of our own real quick. If you'd like to purchase an Historic Athens shirt, there are 3 available right now: Boulevard Historic District, Rock Springs Historic District, and Buildings of Athens. You can find that link here on our Facebook page. We are printing them with a local print shop, Satisfactory Printing, and art was contributed by local designers. So we really appreciate that. 2 last things before we go back to Daniel. Today's interview is one of 55. You can see the list of people on the screen. If you'd like to go back and see a previous episode, go to the video section of our Facebook page and also look ahead for some of the people we're going to be speaking to coming up. We're really excited every weekday at 1 o'clock between now and June 26th. And then the last thing before we go to Daniel, I just want to flash this up on your screen. Our wonderful staff at the Athens Welcome Center are continuing to welcome people from around Athens to historic spaces. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, our interim director, Michelle Wynn, has been doing live remotes from some of the sites from the National Register of Historic Places here in Athens. There's 59 sites. She's trying to hit them all. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, there's virtual workshops at the Athens Welcome Center itself, provided by our staff member, Caitlin. That means that after you finish this episode, if you head over to the Facebook page for the Athens Welcome Center, there should be something for you to see there. So I'm going to go ahead and get back to our illustrious Daniel while we play a little hide and seek. So I say I'm getting back to Daniel, but Daniel's going to have to bring himself back. So Daniel, what do you got for us?
We got Perno's Formal Wear, an establishment in Athens since 1985. So Joy Perno owns and operates that now. And this is Boy Dog. This is a friend of ours. This is actually not Athens, but it's helped Athens. So one of the great things that I always love to say about Epting events is that we travel all over. So when we go, to Atlanta, when we go to North Carolina, when we go to South Georgia, when we go anywhere and earn money, that money comes back to Athens. Clark County is spent here on buildings, on jobs, on preservation, on support for organizations. So Boy Dog is our friend Drew Eccles, who owns J. Moore Farms, and he's allowed us to actually sell some product in Commerce and Alto, Georgia. And he gave us an amazing deal for the strawberries for our local and the blueberries for our local nonprofits for ESP and the Council on Aging. So Boy Dog is one of his programs, and my brother met him through the Leadership Georgia program, which is amazing. Which then, Tommy, I'll give a Lead Athens plug. In this COVID-19 time, right? This is the next section we're in, is COVID-19 actions.
Right.
So as I talk about throwing mud on the walls, with 20 plus whiteboards, as my brother wrote, between the buildings, we literally have, I got 4 in here. But we had a great call yesterday with the Small Business Development Center. Well, Laura, who's in Lead Athens right now, is on Mo's team. And Mo had that idea the other day when we were saying, okay, well, how can we help do something with these facilities? So one of the projects that we've been working on during this COVID time is this so inspiring, is with early childcare and the family counseling. Tim Johnson and his teams and Clayton Adams and the Zwern and all the people that are dealing with early childhood development. That's the best investment that we can make in our community for the future, is making sure that kids have the opportunity to healthy, high quality early childhood education. And so in that, with the new needs that they have in PPE for the new facilities and the extra burden cost and the limited resources that are at the retail market for 44 licensed professionals here in town to do the job and do it well, I said, well, Tim, what about the idea of a distribution center? Would that be potentially helpful? So I've been on the phone with our vendors sourcing things that have absolutely nothing to do with us serving food. But if we can make it break even for us and support the leadership that they're all putting forward, Athens is going to be a better place, not just now, but in 15 years, in 18 years, and in 20 years. I mean, one of the great things about this broken time is we got such an opportunity to fix things for the better. that needed that attention. Didn't we just do an advertisement? Good Lord. But since we're on that advertisement, this is one of the cool things that Tim Johnson sent me. So any of y'all that needs that can get it from me. Shoot me an email. But Athens works when workers have childcare. And this is from a conversation that I was in with David Bradley at the Chamber and a group of folks, and said, "What do you need, Daniel?" I said, "Well, when we get back going to work, my parents will need childcare, and they'll need quality childcare so that our workforce in Athens can get back to work." So that then led to a call with Tim. And one of the cool things coming up this coming next Friday, is this movie In. And so this was a little sidebar in one of the conversations, emails that Tim had sent me. And so as I got to reading it, I said, "Man, we would like to sponsor this as our family foundation." And then they said that it had already had some sponsorship. And so that's fantastic. What can we do to help? So please, everybody, check that out. No small matter. June 5th, movie In, put the kids to bed early. It's a little heavy, but it's about the crisis of early childhood education. So I expect everybody in Athens, Clarke County to get on board to make that stronger. And Tommy, as a parent yourself, you know the value of it. The development of these children at this age is crucial to where we are. I had good fruits and vegetables, and future problem solving team. So let's put them in position to win.
Absolutely. Daniel, I want to ask you something here. I want to ask you something. So, first of all, we're getting a lot of thank yous, and I'm trying to share comments as they come in. Clayton Adams, dude, thank you for all you're doing. Tim Johnson or Milton reaching out to Tim to say how lucky are we to have Tim Johnson in Athens. Daniel, I got to ask you, as we're talking about COVID, so you have this superpower, this acknowledged superpower to get really excited about things, to get other people excited about them, and to say yes and then figure it out. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're a person like everyone else. One of the biggest challenges with COVID-19 has been recalibrating and redesigning existing institutions. You talked about that, losing all that business in 39 hours and then immediately having to figure out what you do now. As a leader, as someone who so many people are looking to, how have you managed the stress and the pressure of this moment? How are you keeping your head above water when it comes to just that constant pressure?
Well, I stopped drinking for April to make sure I didn't rely on alcohol. But thanks to our friends at Terrapin for creating jobs here in the community. Continue. It's really the strength of the people around me. We got an amazing team that's putting a ton of effort in. The feedback from the community that appreciate the efforts, that really keeps you going. It'd be great if it was profitable. It'd be great if it was even break even. And I think that everybody on this conversation is going to help us get there, so that we, in 50 years, there's still an Epting events to talk about.
Right.
But I don't know. There's tons of strength and opportunity to get from the people just in your nearby area. And again, it's looking at the broken things and realizing the optimistic side of, we can fix it. One of the things in preservation, Tommy, that I love, and I said it years out when I did my house 8 years ago over there on Boulevard, ripped it down to the studs, gutted it completely, ripped off the back third of it. And we were in there, me and this guy, David, were knocking out all the plaster and knocking the plaster down the chimney. And I said, "Wait a minute, stop, David, that's perfect." And he said, "What?" And I said, "It's perfect, just the way it is." I said, "I'm gonna leave it. I don't want to take the rest of that plaster. It looks like it's crumbling. It looks like a ruin." And I said, "You can always fix things, but you can never break things the right way twice." And so when you look at a broken glass and the shard is beautiful, you look at anything that's broken, sometimes you'll find it's the best it's ever looked. And so in that sense, how you come out or how you use that brokenness is crucial to where you look back and you're pleased with that decision. And so I don't know, in that we got a lot of broken right now. So let's just figure it out, make it better, and make it better in perpetuity. Because otherwise, like, when things become the status quo, that's where we are in education and early childhood, and the deficiencies in feeding our elderly, and any of these other problems that I've had the opportunity to engage with, the books for keeps. Like, those only exist because of an old system. And so when they need support and they need that engagement, we all have the opportunity to help lift them up. Lift up historic Athens, lift up Books for Keeps, because it's not going to be the status quo. Let's see what shirt we're going to wear. This one, okay, this isn't an Athens business either, but I thought it was funny. Somebody gave this to me as a gift. This is probably going to offend somebody out there, but my family has taken that risk a few times.
The Claremont Lounge. What a Georgia institution, the Claremont Lounge.
I saw your mama dancing in the Claremont Lounge. That was a gift that showed up at my office a couple months ago, and I don't wear it, but I thought it was funny for today since I got these other shirts. I can't.
No, I mean, one of Athens' most successful recording artists to claim Athens was Bubba Sparks. Bubba Sparks has a song about the Claremont Lounge. So there you go. It's an Athens tradition. So
and he was a lay football coach at Clark Central. I think.
Well, there we go.
98 or 99.
Okay, well there we go. We tied it back in. So Anne just popped in to say the answer to how Daniel maintains his positivity is heart. His is crazy big. I think anyone who's watching this, Daniel, even if they didn't know you before they've watched this episode, I'm sure they would agree now. Daniel, we have about 10 minutes or so together, and so I want to make sure that we take some time to go through 3 questions we've asked each of our guests.
All right.
And get those answers from you too. So, first of all, I want to say that Athens is fortunate that thanks to small business owners like you, a lot of our favorite places haven't been closed to us. There's curbside options. Terrapin, you mentioned. Terrapin has curbside. Lots of great restaurants, bars, and so on. I know you mentioned earlier when you were talking about Puerto Rico that your food may not be healthy, but it's nutritious. But there's also a mental health aspect of being able to enjoy your favorite foods or have some variety. That said, question number 1, if tomorrow this was all over, you woke up and it was safe to go anywhere, quarantine was over, all your favorite Athens places were open for business, and I know this is hard to believe, but imagine you had the day off. Where would you go? What would be some of your Athens places that you'd hit up first?
Probably swing over to Viva and start with some appetizers there, maybe a couple oysters at Sea Bear, then mosey on a little walk down. I probably grab one more beer there at Hendershot, mosey on down there and stop in and say hey to Peter and the team at the National, grab a few bites there. Might catch a movie, have another couple cocktails or beers there with some popcorn, and take a box of M&Ms and sprinkle them in there. So it's like mixed popcorn M&Ms.
Yeah.
Ever try that? Try it. As I slowly mosey up the street, digesting that, I might play little Asteroids at the engine room. Rock that out a little bit there. Some wings at World Famous. I'd love it if it just happened to be a day where Tommy Valentine, the team, was doing something at the Morton Theater to reopen it during this time. Come in and support you a little bit there. There's a ton of great things in downtown, and that's just like this end of downtown. But what we do got to look out for is to make sure that more of downtown. You remember that email that I sent you and a few of the board members.
Right.
We have to look out for those small businesses so that they can pay their landlords, so their landlords can pay the banks, so that we don't lose those beautiful buildings and those businesses to out of state, out of town, out of the country investors that don't appreciate our architecture. And I think it's a great time, as I said to you in that one, also about working on our sign ordinance to make sure that downtown still looks good. I'm not anti-big business. Like, the reality is a small business is tough. I think Urban Outfitters aesthetically did a fine job with what they did for that facility, but I don't like a lot of the signs downtown that cloud the architecture. And so, I look forward to walking downtown and not seeing big ugly signs and seeing businesses operating and people communicating. I'd love to be on College Ave, with no traffic, with it shut down, and people out there hugging and dancing and singing and twirling and eating snow cones with Red Bull vodka mixed in with it.
Well, there we go. And that's why Aaron is absolutely right. At the end of this, you're gonna need Alex Sams to give you a ride home. So Daniel, you tapped into something really important here, which is our second question, which is we've been asking each of our guests about historic preservation. As you mentioned, right now, we're in the middle of some really big discussions. There's discussions about new historic design guidelines, including things like signs, scale. We're in the process of looking at a number of new historic districts. I'll pause if there's any promo you want to do here. What do we got?
This is
Oh, of course.
yeah, a medical shirt, that Ashley had printed for me. Is some scrubs, just to test them out. But there's a Good Story Foods and Epting, and one of our near and dear friends, also in the Leathers family, Leon Leathers Company, Ruby Sue Graphics. So I know that you're getting some great support, Tommy, from Satisfactory Printing on your shirts. Is that right? Yeah. So this is another great screen printer, family business here in town. So does all the shirts for Widespread Panic, which obviously with no concerts and tours going on right now is slow. So he can use some help. And the reason I wanted to bring these, Tommy, is because T-shirts are something that everybody wears at some point, even if it's just for your garden. But that's a way that you can support, just like you're selling them for Historic Athens. Everybody can buy some shirts, buy some T-shirts, send them to your friends that don't live in Athens to tell them to remember Athens and think about us. So that's why I thought T-shirts would be a good little prop to bring.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're not a true Athenian until you have 2 drawers full of T-shirts plus 3 boxes in your attic of shirts you can't bring yourself to throw away. So
you can't.
Yeah. Everyone in Athens I know is planning at some point a T-shirt quilt. I've never actually seen a T-shirt quilt, but I just know everyone's planning on it at some point. But back to preservation here for a second. So there's likely going to be a vote in a couple months on whether or not there's going to be a new West Downtown Historic District. We've been working with the College of Environment Design and the HPC about whether there might be Cars Hill or Newtown or other places. But when we come out of COVID, we're not just coming out of a pandemic. We're coming out of a recession. And one of the things we've been mentioning to each of our guests is one of the big discussions in the historic preservation world is when you come out of a recession, sometimes people are so eager to build and change and grow that previously safe historic places can become very quickly endangered, sometimes endangered overnight.
Yeah.
And so my question to you, Daniel, is, let's imagine a young UGA undergrad 50 years from now watching this on whatever devices they're using 50 years from now at the UGA library. If that imaginary student were to walk out of the UGA library, what are some places in Athens that you hope are saved so that they can still visit them? What are some places you hope we preserve here in Athens?
Wow. So many. The scale of a lot of our neighborhoods, really, as opposed to just individual structures, is scale. And I think that's one of the things that gets lost in the value and the understanding of historic preservation. So the scale of the Hancock corridor, the scale of a lot of the University Drive area that hasn't been torn down from these big McMansions, so while you don't have to appreciate the individual structures, the feel of those communities not overlooking you, and that's when we start to build too close to the street, and we build too tall, and we build these monstrous, crazy roof lines that are jagged and silly, in my opinion, that ultimately create leaks, which then lead to expensive owned houses that then you got to fix, somebody neglects, and then it gets torn down, yada, yada, yada. It continues. But I'd really love to see the emphasis continue and stay on scale of a lot of the places. Now, the tree that owns itself, I think, is one of our most amazing sites in Athens, and it's just a tree, but what it represents is so cool. And the cobblestone street going up to it is it's great. I mean, that tells, if you take the time, it tells the story of rivers and ballast and commerce and trade, which is so integral to what makes Athens work, is that we are a destination place for people to continue to come visit. And that's been since our inception. The houses on Millage, I hope the president's house stays in great condition. This brings up, actually, if you think about the Taylor Grady house being a venue, I'm in the situation that the Taylor Grady house and the Junior League are in. There's a restaurant and small business crisis, but there's also a venue crisis out there right now. And for those of us that aren't subsidized by any public funds, that we're fully private, organizations or individuals that own venues, those are resources that help the community by doing fundraisers and parties and celebrations. But right now they're sitting vacant, and there's not really a way that, other than coming up with a new business kind of model, to get in there to look out for that help right now from folks. But but that's a junior league thing. That's the fire hall. That's when I was still on the board. Right. We hired you. That was something that we were trying to push more and more, was that space as a venue to generate revenue, so that we're not just asking for money. We're doing something. We're doing a good or a service for the money. So I'd love to see the fire hall obviously still there. The TRR Cobb House, and again, Fred Smith, tell the whole story.
Tell the whole story.
And that house, as the name Cobb and as the name Athens, everything has some negative history as far as you take it back. But we got to work together on making the future brighter, but remembering the past. So those houses, those structures, those commercial spaces, the places, the other Cobb House that Chris Peterson preserved, 50 or 100 years, if the Peterson children are still living there, or grandchildren, that'd be great. The Episcopal Church, just phenomenal. I'd love to see some more preserved, Tommy, from your stomping grounds, the East Side, from your old stomping grounds. Right. I know you came over here to our side now, but we need some support on the East Side. It's been crucial to the development of Athens, Clarke County as well, but I think oftentimes gets neglected. So let's not let the scale and the focus of the West Side, where there's traditionally been more affluence, neglect the East Side. Let's make sure that we spread that awareness. So,
and Daniel,
is that decent of an answer?
No, these are amazing. I just have to tell you, next time you and I see Jeremy, if we don't get you to talk about the pump house, I'm gonna get hit upside the head. So so you want to talk about the pump house for a second?
All right. So everybody, the pump house has been on my to-do list for like 14 years now. And it is right there behind Granger as you head to Manning Brothers, right there on the Greenway. So the stakeholders, Athens, Clarke, or Historic Athens, the Rivers Alive, the watershed groups, Clarke County, the Sandy Creek Nature Center. It's 1916 came online, and by golly, how many times have I given you the spiel in the last 14 years? Barnett. So it was a Barnett designed building, and what it did in 1916 when it came online was to be able to put 1 million gallons of water into the city water system, which was big at the time, huge at the time. And so the whole thing is just an octagon right there on the creek, and it would be such a scalable job to preserve. And what I'd love to do with it is to go in to keep some of the industrial history of it, but put a balcony that overlooks the water, fully wheelchair accessible, open up to windows, ideally be able to go up to a second level, because getting on a roof is just always cool. And one of the things that I first got arrested for was climbing stuff, but whatever. And it has, it'd be a great place for a snack shop to encourage people to get out and be with their family on the Greenway, to be by themselves on the Greenway, but to get out. The cool thing, it's got that large enough area where they tore the house down a few years ago. And so that area can be a fantastic little park for maybe an off-leash portion for the dog, for the Greenway, so that people could just get in a gated area, let their dog off leash, grab some snacks, and then you can go from industrial to 200, 300 yards up the walkway to the nature center. So you have the nature and industry and where they came together to become part of what makes Athens so amazing. So I would love it, and it's a totally scalable job. Let's do fundraising. Let's save it. Give something back to the community. Celebrate Barnett.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, I just want to tell you, I'll just put this out there, because as we've seen today in the comments section, you have the Epting community is such a large and active and spirited community. We've seen that in the comments section. We are in the final days of accepting nominations for this year's Athens Places in Peril initiative. There's been a lot of talk about the pump house, but someone's got to nominate it. So maybe you or someone who's in that comment section can nominate it. I'll put the nomination form in the comment section when this video is over. But we'd love to see that on this list this year, because I know everyone loves that place. I run by it at least 3 times a week, and it would really be a big addition to the Athens community. So Daniel, our last question of the day is this, which is uh, so let's think further. We talked about 50 years from now. I want you to think 100 years from now. Recently, one of the ways we've contributed to the dialogue is WUGA asked us to produce a segment on the way Athens dealt with the 1918 flu. And we were really floored to see how much of it was reminiscent of how we're handling things now, boldly, in a big way that was concerned with safety. Looking back 100 years helped us right now. And I think there's a very good chance, let's say Athens had an epidemic or pandemic 100 years from now, they may want to look back at interviews like this to determine how we handled this moment. So if somebody's watching this 100 years from now, Daniel, what would you want them to know about Athens in this moment?
Unity. Look towards consolidated efforts to maximize your best shot on goal at supporting recovery. Our mayor and commission fought hard to shut this city down early, and it was a tough, frustrating battle, but they made it happen, and we are safer and healthier because of that. I did, I did make a drinking game out of that commission meeting when everybody kept saying it's draconian, draconian. So I said, well, every time draconian said, you could have a drink. So that was in March. But really, you gotta take those bold steps, and I'm really proud of our mayor and commission for getting to that point to do that. And I'm really proud of Piedmont Athens Regional and St. Mary's for being prepared to respond. Because if it was just Athens that they had to deal with, they'd have had a lot easier time. But we, as a regional location for the medical services, a lot of our patients come from surrounding counties, and they handled it amazingly well. It's been great to work with Jason Smith and Tammy Gilland and Elaine Cook and Rick Selleck at Piedmont, and to really to help their staff get them some meals, but also just brainstorm on how to engage to make it a more efficient and healthier, safer program. So in 100 years from now, in 99 years, have those relationships with your mayor and commission. In 99 years, have those relationships with your local area hospitals, and support them. I want, in 100 years, I want it to be a big party called the Piedmont Man Festival. That'll be the 100th anniversary of that starting, because everybody celebrates the mountain man, but nobody celebrates the Piedmont person. Really, we'll make it all gender. So the Piedmont Person Festival, sawing trees, just all the same stuff that helped define and to create the city that we have now. Also, the Northeast Georgia Blueberry Festival. I hope it'll be in its 100th year then. So maybe this coming year will be year number 1. Boomtown Days. These are all actually just other things that I just was going to plug along the conversation, but I forgot to. So now I'm just totally hitting them and stealing the question away. Boomtown Days Party, which is something everybody should look up in Leadville, Colorado. So I've wanted to do that on the Boulevard. And then Milton, I do really want to bring back the word "the" to Boulevard, because it was the Boulevard. And so I would appreciate in 100 years for all the signs and all the addresses for the people that live in my neighborhood to say the Boulevard as opposed to just Boulevard. And that's a very important thing, Tommy, these days. It's a very important thing. But there's a few real ideas, and there's a few tangents for what 100 years should look like. But unity and support for your mayor and commission, I think, is going to be paramount, because that was a tough decision. Those were tough conversations. I feel that they made the right ones, and Mayor Gertz has taken a lot of heat and gets a lot of credit, and I believe that he is due all the credit in the world. And the heat comes with the job, and he knew it getting into it. And since he taught middle school, hell, it might not be as hard. But he's done amazing, and the chamber, David Bradley has engaged so many people to help respond and to help create just brainstorming, throwing mud on the wall time, so that businesses survive, so that we can get our tax base back. And for you, Tommy, I mean, you're going to take a major hit with the hotel motel tax in your fundraising.
Right.
And so
That's right.
without our heads in beds, that's, you know, that really, where that money comes from funds so many things through the CVB. The majority of, you know, the money goes Classic Center, and then they help to distribute it to a number of other organizations, including Historic Athens. But I hope that Historic Athens is here and hosting something like this and referencing Tommy Valentine and his initiatives. And thank you also on the videos. That was great. The little personal appreciations. So for anybody that didn't get one, you need to join Historic Athens today and get a personalized thank you letter for joining Historic Athens and supporting these types of opportunities. So yeah, how's that? Was that a really long-winded stolen?
It was perfect. It was perfect, Daniel. And it was perfect. Let me very briefly respond. First of all, the videos that Daniel's referring to is just another good example of why it's good to have Daniel Epting have your phone number. I don't mean have Daniel Epting's phone number. I mean have Daniel Epting have your phone number, because if he has a good idea, he'll share it. And so one of his good ideas. Yeah, that's true. That's true too. But you know, a good example is so much of our nonprofit life these days is staying engaged with our members. Daniel gave us a really excellent idea, and as a result, our interns and myself and our staff and everyone worked together to get about 311 personalized videos out to all of our donor members. We hope you received one. Yeah, and if you become a donor, we'd love to say thank you in our own way. Daniel, I'm going to share just on screen for those of you that didn't see it in the comment section, the following link: Historic Athens Essential, historicathens.com/preservation awards. There we go. Shirtworks. We love Shirtworks. We did our pork Shirtworks last year. Yeah. Jeremy's saying, wow, only 15 minutes in overtime. You two could go on for hours. That is true, Jeremy. This is a dangerous combination. I do want to point out this link right here that you see on screen. That is where you can go to submit your Places in Peril nomination. If any of you want to nominate the Pump House or any other place, we're in the last few days of this, but we've already had some folks submit some great projects. Last year's list made the front page of Flagpole and helped us secure Beach Haven as a SPLOST project. We hope that we see some great projects submitted there. And yes, Ashley, I'm going to close with your comment because that's great. Some of those bad ideas are a ton of fun. Daniel's belief in Mardi Gras and Porch Fest, some folks were concerned might be a bad idea, but it turned out to be a good idea and a lot of fun on our end. So Daniel, we're sorry for the occasion to talk to you, but it's been such a privilege to talk to you, and we want to thank you for coming by along with everyone else in the Epting community that tuned in. If anyone would like to come back tomorrow, we're talking to Eve Anthony. I know we referenced Eve Anthony and the Athens Community Council on Aging. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We hope that you come back and give her words of encouragement and a similar energy as you gave today. Yeah. You can find that t-shirt link or anything else, any ways to support us. You can go to historicathens.com or visit us on Facebook. And Daniel, I can't imagine Athens without you. Thank you so much for being a part of today, and thanks for all you're doing.
I appreciate you having it. I appreciate everybody chiming in, and look forward to selling y'all some food and doing some more nonprofit stuff, including jumping out of an airplane for ESP coming up soon. So let's all keep paying it forward and reach out to us, see how we can help you.
Absolutely. A lot of love to ESP with their big jump event that's coming up and everything that ESP does. Thank you to Daniel. Daniel and I are going to jump offline. Daniel, stick with me for 1 second. Right. Everyone else, please stay out there, stay safe and healthy. Be careful. We'll see you back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Take care. Have a great day.